Okay. Okay, so we're asking dumb SEO questions. Each week we meet to answer the SEO questions asked on the SEO Questions Community on Google+. With us tonight we have Alistair Lattimore. Alistair is Senior SEO Manager for the What If Group. He's based here on the Gold Coast in Australia. Archie Watt runs things for Cisco in the south of Wales. Or at least he intends to. Archie's also a top contributor on a couple of Google forums, and I can't think of web search is one, I think. Cool. And Daniel Negraha is the world's greatest programmer. Kartik Bedi is proud to call himself an SEO. He's from Chandigarh in India, correct, Kartik? Chandigarh? It's muted, mate. Never mind. And Tim Capper is the world's greatest conversion rate optimization specialist. I'm reading this from his website. The world's best SEO. He runs a website in the UK. It's onlineownership.com. And amongst other things, he does look after reputation management. All right, so our questions tonight, just bear with me while I find the right button to press. And that'll be this one. Sorry for the delay, just a small technical hitch. Okay, the first question we have tonight is from Muiz bin Hamid, and Muiz asks, is it okay to put someone else's YouTube video in your blog and discuss that? Are there any rules regarding using someone else's YouTube videos in your blog? Thank you in advance. Best regards, Muiz.
Right. I think that's fine, generally speaking. If someone uploads a video to YouTube and doesn't want people to embed it in their website, then YouTube has the functionality to disable that. So if they have disabled it, then you'll be able to see that. But if they haven't, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. I see one of our forum heroes on the SEO Questions community on Google Plus said, yes, it's okay to do that. That's why YouTube supplies the code to embed videos. If someone does not want their video embedded, they will have their settings enabled to prevent that. What I say, Muiz, is there are a number of sites using our own clips from SEO Questions that we're now up to episode 111. You're welcome that they're issued under Creative Commons. You can put them in any way or shape or form you want, and you can re-edit them. You can do anything you want, We'd love to see another website carrying our gear. All right, our next question is from Gangle Transfers. Should I create a separate page for each language and country? She said, hello, my name is Karen from Gangle Transfers. We're a taxi company in Innsbruck, Austria. I created our Google Plus account this year not exactly knowing what it is for. It was a nice to have to me. Now I have realized that it is a very powerful tool. Before I post my question, sorry if my English, whoever finds a spelling mistake may keep them for free. I found one, by the way. Our Google Plus page is located in Austria, but our clients come from the UK, the Netherlands, Sweden, I guess that is, and Norway. I post in English. Should I create a separate page for each language and country? How do I tell Google that the page for Holland should be shown on google.nl and so on? Have a nice day to everybody. Kind regards, Karen.
Okay, so her Google Plus page is okay. So hang on, just to you know, you're a taxi company in Innsbruck, Austria, right? That is only where your Google Plus page will be displayed as such, and I'm assuming you're talking about a local page, okay? Because you might have set up a local or a brand. It would be handy if you had dropped some URLs there. Anyway, so let's assuming it's a local page. Your Innsbruck, Austria local page will only show up for Innsbruck kind of search queries as such, because that's where you're located and it is based on your address. Okay. I don't know why you would want a taxi company to show up in other countries, especially if you only serve people in Innsbruck, and it wouldn't happen from Google's perspective. A couple of things you can do. You can on your site where you've got on your site where you've got your address, you can schema mark that up as local business, and you can also add Rel Publisher to your Google Plus account. If you're using WordPress, that's very easy to do. You can just go into your Yoast and into the Google Plus, into the social section, then the Google Plus section, and add your Google Plus URL, and then that's pretty much job done. Assuming, again, this is a local page, you don't need to worry about posting in any other different languages because a local page will not show up anywhere else in the world except in Austria. So, so yeah, just stick to your native language as such.
Well, he can post in any language he wants, though.
Oh yeah, no, you can post it in. I just realised transfers. So. Yeah, definitely. You might be picking up English people from the airport, so yeah. Feel free, knock yourself out. Yeah, you can post in any language you want to, most definitely. And actually, thinking about that, I would probably also have that on your site, sort of an English page, you know, for English-speaking people from the airport. Yeah, I don't know what kind of nationalities you tend to pick up the majority of, but let's say you have an alarming amount of Japanese businessmen landing there. You could also have a Japanese page, for example. But I wouldn't go like, you know, I would pick the ones based upon your, you know, based upon what is your traditional main kind of, you know, what you've noticed and what your fares are, things like that.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else?
No, I think that's pretty right. The only thing I haven't tested with this before is to see what happens for Google Plus pages that are posting in multiple languages, to see what impact that has. Google are obviously going to return his local business listing for any queries that they determine are relevant, regardless of the language that they're entered in. So if he's a taxi company and someone does a search in Swedish whilst in Austria for a taxi company, his business listing is going to come up so long as Google can understand the query. And he's relevant to the area and all of those kinds of things. But I have never bothered to go and look to see what happens to the Google Plus page content that's multilingual. One other thing you could do, following on from Tim's comment about adding multilingual content to his actual website, would be he could target that content using hreflang to help Google return the right content to the right audience around the world, depending on where they're located.
Yeah. Okay, Karen. I hope that's the answer that you were seeking. You couldn't find two more knowledgeable blokes to answer it for you. Well, I don't think so anyway. Here's one from Swati Badania. How can I use schema.org infographics for my website? Not sure how when I loaded this question, I couldn't figure out what it meant. Swati said, hello guys, good morning. Hope all of you are doing well. I have a question. If you can then please let me know the answer. How can I use schema.org infographics for my websites? I mean, what is the process or code? My website is related to web design and development. Waiting for your reply. Again, no community answers on the SEO Questions Community on Google+.
That's a bit tricky, really, because you know, there's obviously schema markup for images, I think, from memory. What other things could he use it for? It's difficult. I mean, there is a lot of content within the image object within schema.org. There's a lot of content that you can provide, like meta content about the image and the infographic that you couldn't reasonably supply into, say, an alt tag. So I would probably have a look at that to start with, because I think that that's presents a very rich collection of content that you could look into at least. Trying to associate the image to the content, you know, specifically back to web design or web development, could be a little tricky. Just having a quick scan through the documentation.
What's going to happen to schema.org now that Dwayne Forrester is no longer with us?
Well, schema wasn't maintained by Dwayne specifically. He just said that Microsoft are the ones that maintain the website, right? Not him specifically.
Okay.
So there are a few interesting things in here. You could specify a discussion URL for the infographic, so that when Google sees that thing somewhere else online, maybe they'll display the link attached to the infographic to the post that the infographic's attached to. That could be an interesting thing to see. A lot of this stuff you'll find, like looking through this, there must be 100 different attributes that you can associate to an image object in schema.org. The vast portion of these will have never been tested in the real world by search marketers to understand what Google might actually do if you provide good quality data for all of these different elements, or some of them, and how that might manifest itself in the search results. So I'd be well and truly interested in having a crack at that if it was me, and just to see what Google might do. They might do nothing, and it's just metadata that they use for ranking of images and other such things, but you may find that there's elements within the image object that helps it display better inside the search results, a little bit like star ratings, the little stars you see, or reviews, or all sorts of things that show up in the search results. So I'd look at that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah,
All right, we'll move on. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'm not answering the question, Jim. I'm just trying to. It's gone. Look, just look at my screen, Jim. Seriously, it's my image, but it keeps changing to whoever keeps on. Like, look, it says above mine. It's
John Pitcher.
yeah.
He's the guy that asked the question.
All right. Okay. I was wondering what was going on. Okay, mate. Sorry. Ignore me. Cheers. I thought, hey, that's not me. And where's all my lovely text underneath there gone?
I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
We've clearly got some work to do. We are a work in progress at the moment. That's all part of the excitement, Tim. We don't charge you any more for this either.
All right, lovely. Thanks for the entertainment, Jim.
All right, here we have a question from, let me see, it's from John Pitcher. And he asks, will a .org or a .org.uk or a .net domain do okay for a small UK business? For a new customer, the .co.uk domain that matches their business name has gone. There is no website for the name at the moment, but my customer will not be looking to try to pay a premium price for the domain. For a company with the name of XYZ Cleaning Services, I could either get xyzcleaningservices.net or xyzcleaningservices.org.uk or .org or .co.uk or xyzcleaningcompany.co.uk. Note that this is a company, not services. Thanks, mate. I picked that up. He said, I favour one of the domains that matches their company name rather than having a different domain name to the company name given in all of the directories, etc. But I'm not sure if these extensions have the same weight in Google.
So Google's not going to care essentially what domain you use. They're pretty much indifferent to that. Even all of the new custom TLDs that have come out, like .lawyer or whatever it might be, Google have said they're not giving any of those new domain extensions any special treatment. If you use a generic TLD like a .net, for instance, or a .org, you can log into or verify it with Webmaster Tools, and then you can specify the geo-targeting for that domain and geo-target it back to the UK, at which point Google will treat that domain basically as if it's a .co.uk domain in terms of its preferencing in the search results to show up to google.co.uk. The only other thing to consider here is if in the UK people have a higher predisposition to favour local domains over top of GTLDs. In some parts of the world, they are heavily bent towards using local domain extensions. In other parts of the world, they're quite against it. For instance, if you go to, say, Indonesia, for instance, from the research I completed ages ago, my understanding is they don't really like to use the Indonesian domain extension. They tend to prefer to use GTLDs. But in Australia, people like using .au domains in general. So in terms of its pure performance element in search results, it doesn't matter what you use. If you use a GTLD, you can geo-target it. You might find that you get better performance, I suppose, in terms of users thinking that you're a good fit in terms of it's the right website for the right audience search query if you're using a UK domain, but I don't think that's a big issue. I think you could easily get around that with good descriptive title tags and meta descriptions to make sure that users that see your site in the search results know that you're a UK business, even though you're using a .NET domain, for instance.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would also, looking at your question, I mean, you've basically said it's because I think you. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied here. Why do you need to get cleaning services into the domain name? You know, it's not it being a new domain. It's really not going to give you some boost as such. Is the company name itself available? So xyz.co.uk without the cleaning services?
No. He said that his business name
Or is
is
that
XYZ Cleaning Services.
uh,
For a company with the name of XYZ Cleaning Services, his options are the ones he specified. So he's not keyword spamming the domain by adding cleaning services.
oh, he's saying, oh right, he's saying XYZ is actually taken, but I could have XYZ cleaning. Yeah, no.
No. He's saying xyzcleaningservices.co.uk is taken. He could get
Yeah, it's taken.
.uk or .net or .org.
But why don't you just call it? Why don't you just call it xyz.co.uk?
Well, if the cleaning services variation of that's gone, there's a pretty high chance that XYZ's gone.
Yeah. Well, that's an option for him to try. But basically, what I was just kind of saying is, having cleaning services in your domain name is not going to benefit you. So, you know, if you can get xyz.co.uk, you know, that's fine. Well, you know, yeah.
Okay. So I must mention Dave Elliott's answer on the SEO Questions Community on Google+. He said that while not restricted, I think .org.uk is mainly and preferably used for charities and non-commercial entities, so I wouldn't use it for a business personally. Out of the three, I'd use the .net. Yeah. I see Masataki Wasa in the chat came up with a good idea. If this business, this client of yours, John Pitcher, if he's located in London, why not try .london? Anyway. Next item of general business is from Dave Elliott. I'm so glad we have Alistair and Tim and well, everybody here actually, but because anyway, it's way above my head. So Dave said, so schema data. If I do a search query of how do you change a tire, I get this, and he has a photo which, for some reason or other, we haven't picked up and pulled through. I can't see much in the code of terms of schema data other than this. I had a quick look at this, but I didn't grasp what he meant. Did he mean that he can only see one element in the code and the crawlers picked up other elements that didn't actually have schema markup or not?
Hang on, I just want to see the photo.
I think it's just how Google has managed to extract data without markup on page, and I think that's why he's asking if I'm right.
Oh, right, I see. So the answer to this question is they're Google, and they're surprisingly good at what they do. You've got to remember, I suppose, with this, Dave, that Google have been extracting out data out of pages to use, not just for sort of web search, but for all manner of things, long before schema.org happened. Like, for instance, if you remember back far enough, Google were extracting out breadcrumbs out of websites to use in search results long before schema.org breadcrumbs happened. They've been extracting out review ratings out of websites long before schema.org review data happened. They've been crawling through forums, for instance, and understanding how many posts are on a particular thread in a forum and displaying that information into the search results. When a post was last updated, even though the post date on a blog post or an article isn't necessarily marked up with schema.org, their capacity to extract that kind of information out of a page, even when it's not explicitly marked up, has been something they've had for a very long time. This is just another more overt example of it, because they're really pushing that pretty hard into the search results.
Excellent. Excellent. Nobody else? Okay, Dave Elliott, that's your whack for the night. Our next item is from Elizabeth Bobeck. This isn't actually a question, but because she was so nice and said nice things about us, I left it in.
Easily flattered.
Anyway, look, I'll read it out anyway, because it is a very good point, and you guys might have some comments to make on it. Anyway, Elizabeth said, just an FYI for those who are doing Google or Bing PPC, when you change your website pages to correspond to short and long tail keywords, well, actually, it would mean whenever you change your website pages for any reason, make sure that your ads are pointing to the correct landing pages, or Google will tell you that your ads are not approved. They do not like broken links in PPC campaigns. Well, not to mention the expense. It's like tearing up $20 notes and floating them down the gutter. Anyway, she said, I found this out yesterday again by trying to work on keywords for my campaigns. And then she probably goes to the most important part of what she had to say, and she said, great community, have learned a lot here. Actually, we've been getting a bit of praise like that recently, and I think we might be approaching critical mass. Anyway, it certainly makes sense if you change your links, and obviously 404 your landing pages for your PPC campaign, pay for the click, but could not possibly do anything with it. So that's very good advice from Elizabeth, who's obviously got great taste in communities. Anyway, nobody wants to comment anymore, do they?
No,
okay, our next is, right, Shelja Gupta asks, please tell me, hello friends, please tell me about website bloating.
Not quite sure what that means. Maybe he's talking about bloated HTML code or something like that.
I'd say so.
Yeah, so, well, basically bloated code is just, have I clicked the right button here? So, yeah. Basically bloated code just means that it's unnecessarily long or slow. So in the case of HTML, that might mean that you might have, for instance, H1 tags or tables or elements in your HTML, and you individually style them within the HTML when you could do it with just a few statements in your CSS file. So yeah, that's basically what low-fit HTML is, but I don't know if that's what the question refers to.
The other logical one that is, I guess, an extension of what Archie's talking about there is websites that are bloated because of the size of the resources they need to download. For instance, you know, you've got images in your website and they haven't been compressed properly. So instead of it being a 25 kilobyte image, it's actually a 95 kilobyte image. You do that a whole bunch of times across a website, and suddenly you've got, you know, 1.5 megabytes of images you need to download when it could have been 300 kilobytes. Or the other very common one people are complaining about these days is lots and lots of third-party script libraries, so JavaScript libraries being pulled in from advertising networks and tracking scripts and stuff to do fancy animations and interactive user interfaces and things that are, say, libraries or plugins over top of jQuery or something along those lines. Not necessarily jQuery itself, but all of the other extensions that you can get for it to customize it. All of those things, you know, again, cumulatively add up to making your website feel slow. If this is the type of stuff that you're interested in, there's some tools around that can help you better understand this type of stuff. So if you were to go to webpagetest.org, you can put in your website URL and have the tool analyze your load time performance, and it will give you back recommendations about the things to improve to lower your load time. Similarly, you can go and do a search for Google PageSpeed Insights, and Google have got an online tool that does a similar thing. Enter a URL, get a whole raft of recommendations about what you need to improve and fix, and they're very specific, and they link off to help documents within Google, for instance, to really describe the problem in quite good detail, and along with the solution that you need to work towards to address that particular issue. So there's some tools to help with this, so have a look at that.
Yep. The other one I would have thought would be, and I see it all the time, where people are fearless plugin installers, and they install plugin after plugin to make their website go faster, not realizing that all of the complexity they're building in and papering over the WordPress framework is actually making it go slower. And of course, sites, as they get older and older, they may end up with directories of thin content or content that's stale or inaccurate, and of course that can kill a site too. Anyway, our next item on our list is we've got about 25 questions tonight. Oh, by the way, I must tell you, don't get a surprise, but later on we have a new section which we've introduced along with SEO News, SEO Tools. I thought, I tell you why, one of the reasons I did it, one, because Richard Hearn told me to, but two, because I did a search using an anonymous browser to search on Google Plus for SEO tools, and our little SEO tool community is #1. So I thought, well, we should really build on that joy. Anyway, this one is a question from Brian Lichtig. He said, can you please check my website as far as SEO? I'm trying to beat my competitors locally in Baltimore, MD, I don't know where MD is, in search engines, and rank on the first page of Google. Any help would be appreciated. My website is baltimorecomputersolutions.net.
Okay. Brian. Yeah, okay. Quite a few things that I've found. I mean, you might want to just tidy up your title on your home page. Your pipe, you've got no space between your support and Baltimore. You've just got the down pipe, and it doesn't read very well. But the biggest things that I've found on your services page, and I think you need to go through all of these again very carefully. Your custom network setup, your title's missing. You've just got your standard Baltimore computer network design. So, you know, nothing on that as such. Then the biggest thing here, which you really need to go through everything, is your monthly maintenance support is still a lorem ipsum page. That needs to go. I did find quite a few others. I mean, your managed services page. Now that's great. You know, it's got an image. It's got, you know, that's lovely. I would try and replicate your managed services page, computer network services page across all your other services. I think. No, it's not the backup, the data backup. There's quite a few which are still lorem ipsum. Yeah, I found another one, disaster recovery planning. Now, another quick question, which I'm thinking of. You've got a brand page attached to this, and I noticed on all your contact us and in your footer and things like that, you don't have an actual physical address anywhere on your site. Now, I'm kind of assuming you guys do have offices. If you do have offices, I really think it should go into your contact us page, and you should also look at a local page. I can see one for you. Hang on, that might not be the same number. But yeah, I would really recommend, if you do have an actual office address, I would really recommend getting your a local page connected to that also. Appearing in the 7-pack for local search results is you know, really beneficial to traffic. I've got one client who gets sort of 18,000 visits a month just from their local Google Plus page. So, I mean, I don't know what kind of traffic's like in sort of the Baltimore area, but, you know, it may or may not vary, but it is really crucial. You do actually have one year, I've just checked it on the Google Maps, you do have a local page, so I would try and claim that and connect it to your site. Anyone else with anything else?
I would recategorize your primary navigation under your services list. I can't make heads or tails essentially of they're in no order, they're not alphabetized. Alongside of the drop down, you've got network items, network services, data backup, disaster recovery, you've got web design, mobile devices, social media, telephony stuff, Mac stuff. You've got all this that are they're all computer related, for instance, but they're not grouped together. So I would group your services into coarse groupings of the types of services that you offer. One is web design and development, social media related stuff, mobile app development, cloud computing, computer management, data management, computer management, I don't know, whatever the logical groupings of those topics are, so that when people are looking at your site, it's easier to understand at a glance the sorts of services that you do instead of having a really long fly down. The other thing that I noticed, there's no call to action that's prominent inside your site. So mobile stuff, like a local business is going to get triggered because of a lot of mobile queries on mobile devices. So it's fantastic that your site is mobile responsive, which is awesome. But when you do adapt or shrink your screen down so that the responsive site kicks in, you lose all of the good stuff. You've still got your phone number in the masthead, which is great, but there's no call to action. Like if someone wants to submit an inquiry, for instance, that's not easy to do. There's no obvious place to do that. And then when you look at the footer of your website, your footer of your website kind of explodes out because of the way your navigation in the left-hand rail works. So I would look to correct those kinds of things. Make sure that you've got call to actions in like prominent positions when you load your site on a mobile. And again, that's not necessarily going to help you rankings, but it'll certainly help you get more leads from the traffic that you are getting, which is ultimately what you're interested in, making more money, getting more clients. On Tim's point about the address stuff, if you do have a physical address, you've got in the footer of your site, you list your business name and your phone number and an email address, but there's no physical address. So if you do have a physical address, I would add that into your footer alongside your business name, phone number, and address so that it's on every page inside your site. Make sure it matches your Google Plus page, your My Business, local business listing page, which is a no-brainer these days. So that's something that I would definitely look to do. And other than that,
Yeah. Talking about categorization, I would also categorize your blog because everything is pretty much uncategorized at the minute. When something like that appears, when an article appears in search, it doesn't read very well, or I would also change it. It's just called uncategorized archives. So yeah, I would actually split those up into proper categories for your blog. One article per category pertaining to what it actually is, so whether it's Windows or social or web design or whatever. I'd also go into, you've got the same articles appearing for your authors, so I would no index follow those because you don't really want them appearing in search. Same again, it just looks equally messy. But so yeah, just concentrate on sort of tidying it up and categorizing things properly.
Just one other thing I'd add. I'm looking through some of the services pages here, and quite a few of them just seem to have placeholder text and no actual content. For instance, the monthly maintenance support and disaster recovery planning. I think there's a few others. Telephony support is another one. I'm assuming, of course, that content is going to be added there, but going off on Alice's point earlier about the services there being a lot of service pages, even the pages that do actually have content on them, a lot of them are quite bare in terms of content. I mean, things like the data backup page is a pretty bare in terms of content. So I would look at maybe combining some of these service pages together. I mean, for instance, disaster recovery and data backup are very closely related, and I'm sure there's others that could be merged, so to speak. But in terms of the content, I think the service pages are a bit bare.
I would also look at your like on your homepage, you've got your big photo at the top. You've got the 4 icons for the sorts of services that you've got, which is cool. Then you've got a testimonial, which is fantastic. Users love to see testimonials, particularly if the testimonial helps address, their issues that they're trying to solve, which is fantastic. So, if you had a way, for instance, to get testimonials from your clients about from clients that have used you for data management services or firewall services or something or other, if you could get testimonials from some of your clients that line up with the services that you specifically offer, so that on the services page you've got relevant testimonials against that specific service, that would be fantastic. And then one of the downsides you've got at the moment is that while you've got a testimonial on the homepage, or a set of testimonials on the homepage, if I come in and land on your monthly maintenance support plans page, which at the moment has lorem ipsum content on it, there's no testimonials on that page about why you're awesome. And like I said before, there's no call to action on that page about what to do to enlist your services. But on the home page, you've got the testimonial and the inquiry form sitting on the page. I would look to get your services pages and maybe even your blog pages redesigned so that you've got in the right-hand rail, certainly on all of your pages at a dead minimum, your inquiry form is always in the right-hand rail, so that they don't even have to go to the Contact Us page. If they land into your disaster recovery page, they can immediately submit an inquiry to you without having to go to the Contact Us page.
Cool. All right. We had some huge answers on this, which I recommend that you view in their entirety on the SEO Questions Community on Google+. Blade S, Mac Page Speed, and our good friend Dave Elliott posted on these questions, on these answers. And we should acknowledge the work that people do in our SEO Questions community. Anyway, let's move on to our next question. We have 25 to get through tonight. Or it might be 26 actually. Another one from John Pitcher. Could a site be penalised for adding keywords into an existing page? John says a potential customer has an old website that has his keywords, bed and breakfast in Town X, in the title and description, but not in the H1, and Town X is not mentioned at all in the homepage content. His address is, however, in the footer. If, as part of a redesign, I change the H1 from welcome to name to welcome to name a quality bed and breakfast close to Town X, and then change the first paragraph to state that they're located close to Town X, County Y, will this change their SEO, or could the site get penalised for adding keywords into an existing page? They are currently towards the bottom of page 2.
No, it's not going to get you penalised. People rewrite their copy on their websites all the time. So long as you don't go and keyword stuff the site with really low quality content that's just crappy, updating the content and titles and things like that throughout your site, it's not going to get you penalised. Oh yeah, go on, do it. If it's good for users, do it. That's my general motto. To a large degree, I think people probably finesse and pine over Google a little too much. They're trying to align themselves with good user experience and good intentions for users in terms of their goals about whatever the goal is of the website. They're trying to achieve similar goals with their algorithms. So if it's good for users, do it.
Yeah, totally agree. Anybody else? I see Rob Mars has joined us. Rob's an AdWords aficionado from the Netherlands. You'll find him on a website there, marketbiz with 2zs.nl. All right, let's move on to the next because we are going to be pressed for time tonight. Here's another one from Dave Elliott. Is anyone still using a solution filter to get back their not provided keywords? Or are people finding that the data from Webmaster Tools is good enough? If you are using a solution, what are you doing? Personally, I was rewriting the not providers to show which page they were related to. but I'm not convinced that this is helpful anymore. It's drew no answers from the SEO Questions community.
I'm not doing anything with it myself. I'd be surprised if the vast portion of users on the internet are doing anything with it. There is some good solutions kicking around to try and get some extra insight out of it. For the traffic that comes to your site that still has other query string arguments attached to the URL, to the referrer, there's some, you can decode the VED referrer argument and get some insight into the element that users clicked on and whatnot, or like what type of element the user clicked on to get to your site. Google also supplies the CD parameter in the referrer as well, which is the position in the search results the user clicked on, so you know that they clicked on position 5. You can extract that data out, obviously, in Google Analytics and do something fancy with it. It's not hard, but most people, it's way beyond the scope of most users, so I would expect most people aren't doing it. In terms of being able to map it back to landing pages, well, the not provided keyword already is mapped to a landing page, so Google Analytics is doing that for you already. So, and then, is the data in Webmaster Tools sufficient? Probably for smaller sites it's good enough. In general, I think as soon as you get into medium to large sites where you've got hundreds of pages, or you know you're going to be taking search traffic for more than a few thousand queries a month, the data in Webmaster Tools I think is insufficient, particularly if you've got a big site. You know, if you've got a site with tens of thousands of pages and you're getting millions of visits a week, Google's only providing a few thousand search terms inside Webmaster Tools. That's woefully deficient compared to the amount of detail that we were getting before they started removing the keyword data through not provided. So I think there's probably still a bit of distance for Google to make up some ground in that front in Webmaster Tools before they've got an appropriate amount of coverage. Like, I'm not expecting every query, but I think they could be probably doing more than they are now to provide a bit more insight to marketers, because only having 15% of your queries is not fantastic.
Yeah, fair enough. Anybody else? Right, Dave, I hope you're happy with that, mate. Our next question is from Jay Lebutilia, and he said, what is KML and how will it be helpful for SEO? And speaking of Dave Elliott, he gave a great answer on the community, which you can see on the screen at the moment.
Yeah, so it's part of Google Earth, but I've got a funny feeling that KML, you used to be able to supply, I think, KML files inside Webmaster Tools, I think, but it's been deprecated now. I don't think it's supported. That doesn't mean that it's not being used inside Google Earth, because I think you use the KML file to provide lists of mapping items within Google Earth for that, but I don't think Webmaster Tools supports that anymore. I don't think.
Okay. All right, let's jump to the next item on our list. This is a question from Adrian Farrell. Does the number of visits affect search engine result page ranking? Adrian said, if the number of visits affects the search engine result page rankings, Should I wait to publicize a blog hosted on my own domain until it has been indexed? On the community, this was answered by John Tremaine and Tony Anachik. John said I'd get cracking and launch away, exciting. Tony Anachik said the number of visitors, as far as most SEOs agree and researchers show, does not affect rankings, at least not directly. Start promoting sooner rather than later. If you have good stuff, you want people to read it now while it's fresh and up to date. He answers it all for this one. Well, I'll say I don't think the number of visits affects ranking at all. I've had sites with lots of traffic and sites these days with virtually zero traffic. So I think I can tell the difference between lots of traffic and not. And I don't see any reason to think that having lots of traffic makes a page rank better. I think that might be the cart before the horse. So obviously, if you have ranking, you're going to have lots of traffic. Anyway, our next is a question from Gabriel Keynes. Is there a clear line separating duplicate content from consistent branding? If the top 20% of every page of my site is identical, containing a company logo, phone graphic, email graphic, and contact info, would that be frowned on? Obviously, a lot of sites do this or similar, but are there right and wrong ways to implement it?
I would say Google is quite good in recognizing this kind of branding and separating it from the body copy, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And there are no clear lines at all, for that matter.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Rob. Anybody else? All right. Look, I think that's a clear answer, Gabriel. I wouldn't be concerned about it. It's not duplicate content as such. It's boilerplate on your site, and as Rob said, Googlebot's very good at understanding that. All right, our next item is from Pablo Caso, I think. He said, what's your opinion about the usefulness of the meta name mobile optimized? I thought I'd heard them all. Anyway, Pablo said, hi everyone, question for you all. What's your opinion on mobile optimized? Could it have any utility for responsive sites? I think it is totally obsolete. Curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that one's I think that one is obsolete. I think that one was introduced by Microsoft for the mobile version of Internet Explorer. So basically, you could specify the width of the screen that the website was developed for, and if it was less than that, then fit to screen would be turned off, and if it was larger, it would remain on. But now I think most, if not all, modern mobile web browsers will use the viewport meta tag, which that lets developers have a lot more control over the content's layout, things like width, height. Can the user scale it themselves? So yeah, I think the mobile optimized one is obsolete now.
Brilliant. We're so glad you're with us tonight, Archie. I hope you're here more often. But I had no idea that was actually a used tag. So thank goodness you were here to save the day, mate. All right. By the way, I loved Frank Rodriguez's comment on the community answer on the SEO Questions Community on Google+. He said, smoke. Okay. So David Jones asked a question about an infinite load blog update. He said, I've just deployed a new theme on a blog. After a week or so, I looked in Google Webmaster Tools and saw a huge increase in crawl errors and pages being reported as 404s. I'm seeing that many old posts from this blog are now empty of content and thus 404s. And I have no idea where this content has gone. Also, the 404s report is showing lots of blog post URLs with PHP code on the end, and I'm not sure why. He gives a link to his blog, www.thedailymindcom. By the way, David, oh, that's right, you did correct that. Thank you for that, and much appreciated. He said this is an example of an archive post that is now a 404 due to the content vanishing. I won't read it out, you can see it on the screen there. And he also gives an example of a post with the PHP code added on the end. I'd say this is a problem with the theme that he's just loaded.
Pretty much.
He said that right.
So,
yeah.
It looks like he's got a bug in his theme. Look, like if you decode the broken URL he's got there, the URL is actually it ends in worrying-today/ followed by an PHP block of code. So it seems like a piece of code in his template's not being escaped properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, that's our answer, David. I hope that's what you're looking for. All right. Moving on to the next. It's a question from Hector Dixit on reputation management. Hector said, hello everyone, question for you all. My client is having negative information on articles and a USA news site. When we search his name on Google, the negative article and the news article ranks on the first page. He wants to push these articles and news sites from Google search. He also purchased 5 domains on his name, but ranks on only 1 domain. 5 profiles rank on the first page, including Facebook, YouTube, SlideShare, and 1 domain, the client's name domain. I've already created a profile on high authority social networking and social media sites. What else should I do to push their negative news and articles from the search engine? Please give your suggestion.
Well, you could start some blogs on blogger.com.
Yeah,
perhaps about, in a way, the reason for the negative information being on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know why you've. Yeah, I don't know why you've purchased sort of 5 domains in his name, because, you know, what, are they just parked domains?
I think his intention is he's going to build 5 websites with his client's name to push the other search results down. That's not the
The
way.
thing is, yeah, the thing is that's going to take you a long time in that sense, because, you know, these articles and news sites already have like you know, some kind of authority about them. So of course their article is going to be weighing in higher than any site at the minute that you create. I mean, you've done the right thing in your profiles. I don't know what the articles or the negative news sites were about, but could you counteract them in other news sites? You know, because another news site is going to obviously rank higher than that. Does he have any? Do you have any relationships with any other of his clients, for example, that have blogs that you know, very good relationships that could actually post reviews on their site saying that we work with whatever his name is, or our experience working with so and so. So it would include his name. It would be coming from their blog, and it would be building up, you know, higher authority and pushing down the lower authority stuff. Do you know? So, I mean, that would be the avenue I would take. Building 5 sites with your clients is going to take quite a while. You need to look at sites that have already got a little bit of clout, and try and get stuff published on there. In and around, it doesn't necessarily have to be about him itself or the negative review. It could be XY is his name. Launches new product, or X, Y, and Z creates something fantastic, or do you know what I mean? You look for an angle, including his name in it, that you can get actually published on other news sites, other websites, other sites within whatever, you know, the articles about their genres, and by publishing those with his name, you're going to push those other ones down, and bear in mind that they're not going to be evergreen, those articles, unless you start, you know, they will reduce, but you just try and find other authority sites where you can get other things published to push these down in the meantime whilst you're working on. I don't know why you would want 5 sites, but yeah, that would be that would be my avenue.
Yep. I think trying to beat down a bad review, to try to do it all from one source makes it harder. I think we had that example, Rob, with that exercise that we did, by having people from a diverse area, each of them ranked in their own right, and filled that first page. And I just wanted on record that I beat Tim in this instance, on that one occasion. Oh dear. All right. Right. Let's move on. Well, do you think we've covered this for Hector Dixit or not? We're giving our best shot.
Yep.
Okay, let's say that. Thank you, Hector. I'm sorry that we haven't given you more. Okay. This is a question from Tanmay Rudas. And Tanmay asked a question which you guys don't have to answer because we've answered it, I think, about 400 or 500 times before. How to rank my website first page on Google with keyword. Tanmay said, I have a website with 7 keywords. Please tell me how to rank my website first page on Google with keyword. A step-by-step guide and or tutorial to guide me. Already, I have submitted my site to directories and search engines, but do not rank with a keyword. So please provide me a step for keyword ranking. I actually left an answer for Tanmay. I said that this question is asked here almost every week. It's too broad to answer in one go, but there are hundreds of results for the keyword ranking on our website, dumbseoquestions.com. And if you go to dumbseoquestions.com/s/ranking, I think it's currently outputting 500 different posts for ranking and related subjects. And the thing is, Tanmay, I hope you don't mind, but the business of SEO is about ranking. So obviously, most of our questions that we've answered would be about ranking with a keyword. There's my little rant over, guys. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Yeah, it's a very broad question to say I just want to rank, but simplistic, I think you're obviously starting out, so I'd start with the simple stuff. There's a bunch of tutorials to read. Google publish an SEO starter guide. There's some starter content from Search Engine Land. Moz have one. I think SEO Interactive produce an online learning piece of courseware type stuff that you can go through to progress your way through a whole bunch of knowledge to do with that space. And I think once you've got through that stuff and started to digest the type of content and topics that are relevant, you'll be in a better place. But you know, it still comes down to, I suppose, 2 basic things. You need great content. You need to be looking to outpace your competition, whoever your competition is, with the content that you're producing. And you need great links to your website to outpace your competition, essentially, so that Google understands that you've got a great website that's relevant, topical, and that it deserves to rank for a keyword. If you've got an expectation that you're just going to slap a website up and it's going to rank, that's just pretty much not how it's going to work for you. So, and Google are pretty much not interested in facilitating that kind of website either to rank. So you're going to have to work for it. You don't necessarily need to work really hard depending on the niche or the industry that you're pursuing. But if it is a commercial style industry, like gambling, for instance, or travel, hotels, flights, pharmaceuticals type stuff, banking, anything to do with finance, if you're playing in any of those type of spaces, you're going to have to pedal hard to get somewhere. It's not going to come to you for free.
Yep. And we've just been joined by the Senior SEO Manager for Zazzle.com in the United States, Micah Fisher-Kirshner. And Mike, I'm sorry about the invitations tonight. And Richard, it just went crazy. And Richard Hearn, redcardinal.ie. It's not full. We've got a 15-person hangout happening here. We can have more.
We'll get on it, Jim.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Tanmay, I hope you're not discouraged by that. I hope you use our resources to exceed your own expectations. Our next question is from Nagaraj Guda, how to block a website. I'm not sure if there's an answer to this because I'm not sure if the way that domains work, although Richard Hearn is here, he can fill us in. Anyway, Nagaraj said how to block a website without any hosting details. One of my clients has been divided into two companies now. So one company wants to use the same domain, but another partner has the hosting credentials. They want to block that current website, and after that they will purchase the same domain with a new hosting company and develop a theme. Please share your views.
Depends who's on the who is. If they have the email that's on the who is, they can transfer the domain away.
Yep. Yes, okay. Good heavens, Tim Capper, who's that attractive young lady standing beside you? No, on the film screen.
I was like, what? Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome to see.
No, the only reason I did that is because last week, I think it was last week, the missus was standing there in a witch Halloween costume right next to me. So when you said standing next to me, I was like, oh, is the missus home?
Okay. Well, look, it's coming up for Nagaraj Gouda. Look, there are a couple of issues here, but really the person that holds the ace card is whoever's listed as a registrant on who is. That's how this argument will be settled. Anyway, the next one that we're dealing with tonight is from Aaron Bowman. It's on link building. Aaron said, "Hi guys, trying to do some link building for some of our clients and hitting a brick wall in terms of new ideas and how to get links ethically. I'm trying to avoid things like directory listings and forum postings." I'm still laughing about Tim. And forum postings, but it's hard to constantly create engaging, shareable content when you're managing various different sites. Would be grateful for any hints on how to link build in the post-Penguin 3.0 world. Thanks.
It's terribly difficult to answer that without context. What might be good for one side is going to be bad for another. I love looking for data and stuff that can be automated. If there's large data that a company has, it's always great to look to see, can you externalize it via some sort of app or tool on a website that's automated, and you can build lots of content in an automated fashion that doesn't have a big overhead. But that will work for some, and there'll be nothing there for others. So without context, difficult.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is going to be some of the similar things that people are still talking about today, even if they're maybe not as effective. But so what you hear generally across the web with whether it's quote unquote link bait, infographics, now none of those have necessarily gone away. Now there might be limitations of what you can do within them, and you have to kind of up your game a bit to get them to be shared. But the only thing that's really been limited for the most part is some of the ones you've noted. So many of the past articles that you can find, whether it be on Moz or oh gosh, I'm blanking out on some of my favorite ones here. John, what was it? Gosh, where's my list? Whether it be kind of on Moz or any other like Kaiser the Sage, some of the sites that often talk about link building, a lot of the ideas that are listed there are quite still relevant today. So you can find a lot of good ideas in those areas.
I'd have a look at the type of content, like for the competitors for your clients, Aaron. I'd be looking for, just as another idea, I'd have a look at your competitors and where they're getting links from. So go into Majestic or Ahrefs or Moz, Open Site Explorer, and have a look at the backlink profile for your competitors and where they're getting great links from. Because that might give you some ideas about the type of content that they're producing or the type of strategies that they might be doing. Like it might be, for instance, that they're not producing content. They might be doing it through PR, for instance. They could be doing it through competitions or God knows what. But kick some tires and look around for the types of things that competitors are doing that are producing links. Because it could yield a whole world of new fertile ground for you to go into. The other thing I would say there is also don't limit this research to your immediate competitors. For instance, if you're in City A, go and do the same sorts of competitor research in 5 other cities and find out what the backlink profiles look like for 10 other competitor sites that are in different cities that are not non-competitive to you because they're in a different city, for instance, but they're in the same industry. And start looking at their backlink profiles to get ideas for how you can get links in similar ways to them. And again, some of them might have nothing to do with you producing content in the more traditional sense where you're looking to produce some amazing piece of shareable content. It could be that you could do a survey, for instance, on your website. You've got survey results, or you could commission a survey, and that the data that you have that has an output of that survey could form a particularly interesting piece of public relations content that might get picked up on a local news website because it's particularly interesting. It could be timely. You could do the research now and release it when there's an event coming up where the research would be particularly interesting for an event at the same time, and that might give you a better success rate of getting the content picked up by an editor or a journalist that works for a news website, because they're always looking for great content to publish, and you're basically giving it to them on a silver platter right when they need it, 3 weeks before or 2 weeks before an event's going to happen in your area. You know, so I'd start thinking about things like that.
Good one, Alistair. Anybody else? I see Richard Hearn is nodding his head at that. No, none of us can top that, Aaron Bowman. So that's your lot for tonight. Thank you very much, and I hope it's useful. I would point out the answer that Dave Elliott in our SEO Questions Community on Google+, Dave Elliott said have a look at pointblankseo.com / link building strategies with hyphens between the words. Okay, our next is from Kushal Shah. Kushal Shah said, I've been facing a news issue since the last few weeks, and due to this, Google News traffic has dropped over 90%. The URL to the Google News sitemap is freepressjournal.in post googlenews.xml with underscores between the words. And in the Webmaster's News section, it isn't getting indexed at all. However, the web section's articles are indexed, but are also way too low as compared to submitted. That's fairly normal. What could be wrong here? I tried to find the solution on support, but all seems working fine for me. It's a news portal, so 300 plus articles go live daily, and there are few errors in Webmaster Tools as below. server errors 18, soft error 1, not found 19,510. These were even higher last month. Still, daily visitors were over 12,000, which has dropped to 5.5k average daily visitors. Do we have anybody who is expert at the Google News section who can help me find a solution? Any suggestions or feedback that would be highly appreciated. Regards, Kishal.
It just so happens that I'm working with a really big news site at the moment, and I don't think that this is an isolated incident. I think there was some issue in the last 4 or 5 weeks where a lot of sites saw a crash in their traffic from Google News. I can't say what happened or why. I know that this site, the issue was resolved when they spoke to Google, but I don't think it's isolated. Afraid I can't offer any more.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Let's Kushal. I hope Richard's information has been useful for you. Next is a question from No, actually, I think we've actually had this question already, haven't we? How to block a website? Yes, we have. We must have a double in there somehow. I'll move on to the next. Here's a question from Mo Nelson. Someone keeps adding junk backlinks to my website. Any thoughts on what I can do to stop this?
Well, you can't stop it.
Yeah. Although I remember Amex tried and put a, maybe it was a Visa, they put a clause saying you can't link to them without permission back in the day.
Yeah, so basically you can't stop people linking to you. All you can do is monitor it and take action accordingly. So options are have a look at webmaster tools, either Google, Bing, some of the graph tools like Majestic, Ahrefs, Moz have all got fresh link finder type functionality. Design SEO have got a plugin that you can use called Fresh Link Finder that exports all of the backlink data out of Google Analytics, and then as fresh links come into your site through that they haven't discovered in the past, you get notified of them quickly so that you can see whether they're followed or not, what anchor text they're using, and so forth, which is pretty kick-ass. So I'd definitely have a look at some of those tools. And then the next option is you need to start getting them removed, pretty much. So you need to contact the people that own the websites and start asking them to take them down. If they're spammy websites, add them to your disavow file and periodically upload that into Google Webmaster Tools. It's probably worth pointing out that if you are contacting webmasters trying to get links taken down, it would be worth your time to document that process on the off chance that you end up getting a penalty of some persuasion. You might need to provide that evidence to Google at some point to try and get the penalty revoked, for instance. So it'd be worth keeping track of that kind of stuff.
It's probably also worth making the point that the really bad links in the web, most of the time, they're not created by a person. The real spam is just all auto-generated. So just for the person asking the question to maybe put their mind at rest that quite a lot of the really bad links in the web, it's not someone doing this to you, it's just that you've been caught up in something that's very automated. I know the other thing to mention is the Fresh Link Finder is something that will only work if someone actually clicks a link to your site, as far as I know. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's referrer data, so it probably won't pick up the really bad stuff, because the really bad stuff, no one is actually seeing it or following it. Google might find it, but yeah, just disavow this junk. It's terrible that you have to even worry about this stuff. Again, it goes back to what we've been saying for the last few weeks. I think it was a real mistake by Google to allow this to become an issue. But anyway, it's another story, another day.
Save it for the news section.
Yeah. The rant section, is that? Do we have a new rant section as well? Dumb SEO rant. Everything else is dumb SEO something. That's the theme.
I like that. That's not a bad idea. Jim always can host it at the start. He's got some great ones.
Look, okay, before we move on from this question, I just want to point out one thing, and that's in the community answers on the SEO Questions Community on Google+. Jen Holzman, as you guys said, mentioned the disavowed tool available on support.google.com/webmasters. But then ligatures.net, while I thank you for answering this question, I think that you've given very, very bad advice. On top, you said that on top of disavowing those links, report them to Google via their forum, because they may identify patterns and neutralize these sites before they start harming. Google welcomes such information. Firstly, I don't think Google welcomes it at all, but certainly if you send people to the Google Webmaster Forum to say that they're under a negative SEO attack and start posting backlinks, hordes of people will come out of nowhere and jump on their heads. So I'd suggest that that's a very bad idea. Does anybody want to test it with me one day? We'll just make up a profile and pop in there and you know, report our negative SEO links.
No, but it depends on what you're reporting, Jim. I mean, if you're reporting, oh, here's a bunch of links that are negatively affecting my website, yeah, they don't care. But if you can say, here's a huge link scheme, a huge network of sites that's been used for negative SEO purposes, if it's real, I guarantee you they'll pick that up and their engineers will be looking at it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the average webmaster is not going to understand or know what they're looking at for that.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Next is a reputation management question from Ganesh Korlikar. He said, hello guys, I have a question for you all. Since last month I am working on ORM for one of my clients. There is a link which is saying negative words about the client. As per the client's requirement for removal, I have contacted the webmaster and requested to remove content. He has removed the content, but still the snippets are showing in the search results. And I need your suggestions to remove that content.
Wait.
The other alternative is he can submit a URL removal request through Webmaster Tools. That's it. In due course, as soon as when Google recrawls and indexes the page that had the bad content on it, it'll just fall out of the search results naturally. But that might take, 4 weeks or 8 weeks, depending on the size of the site. If it's a really big site, it might happen in one day. But if it's not, which is more than likely the case, it might take a few weeks for that to happen naturally. If you really need it out of the search results faster, because it's quite damaging in terms of whatever's being said, you can use the URL removal request. Once it's been processed by Google, it'll just vanish. It's quite fast.
The fun one, the one that I always like is why try to remove negative, get some positive on the same site and then link to that. That will replace the negative. So it does more good well.
Except when they split one negative up into 3 negatives and leave it showing on your local page for 5 frickin' months.
No, that doesn't happen to normal people.
Yeah, that's only if you run into like rip-off report, complaints board. I mean, that's you've done some bad stuff.
That's only because you edited the Google map and said that Google was closed.
Yeah, and that's also
yeah, live with it.
Everyone's ignoring my pleas for help.
No sympathy for Vlad's right-hand man.
Okay, Ganesh, and if you want to follow Alistair's advice and use that remove URL tool, you'll find on the SEO Questions Community an answer from Blade S, which has the URL that you need to go ahead and do that. All right, our next question is coming up anytime soon, I hope. Just a moment, I'll just die here. There we are. Sarah Barry, have you noticed, guys, that we're getting, it must be because of all you good-looking blokes, I think, but we're getting more and more ladies on our community.
Good.
We're not quite 50-50 yet, but certainly getting better.
It's because we're non-threatening metrosexual men.
Exactly. And some of us are sporting particularly fantastic mustaches. Just saying.
Oh, I was wondering if you were going down that route next.
For which I welcome any donations for Movember.
Yeah, well, you got me again, Alistair. Well, you will, not yet, but you will soon. All right, here's a question from Sarah Barry. Meta keywords, do they need to be deleted or are they harmless? Any thoughts? Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sarah and I'm new. An X, doesn't that mean a kiss?
Yes, it does.
Well. There were various answers on the community for this, basically saying that meta keywords are harmless because they're not taken into account by search engines for ranking. No need to delete them. Personally,
It depends.
I still use a meta keyword.
My view on this is that if it's a load of spammy stuff, like you've shoveled in 300 general keywords on every page, just get rid of them and get rid of them quickly. Otherwise, don't sweat it.
Wasn't Google News using it? Didn't they like add that in or something?
Yeah, I think there's a keyword, Google News specific keywords meta tag for Google News, but I think it's a separate one from the general meta keywords tag.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it's mostly harmless, as Federico Sasso says in our community answers. But yeah, I still use it. It must be just an old habit. Here's a question from Gaurav Jaggi. Is there any way to search dumbseoquestions.com according to the topics discussed in them? Yes, there is. There's a search box on the top of every page. He asked, are there any specific webinars in which link building methods and related questions have been discussed by the expert panel? Kindly advised, thank you. And he then went on to say, please ask this question for me in the upcoming Hangout, which we'll do. What are some short and long-term link building strategies that work like a charm after the recent Google updates? I am using many of them, like high PR links, social bookmarking, profile links, etc., but would like expert opinion on how they are ranking their keywords, except for on-page optimization. Thank you so much, and great work in bringing the experts together. Well, he knows that you guys are experts anyway.
It's a start.
Why do his current tactics read like the list that you normally see in emails from throwaway Gmail accounts saying that they're marketing manager of some big ISO company?
I mean, it is true that there's a cultural difference. How can I put it? It's certainly the beliefs in some areas aren't like beliefs vary from area to area.
But he says there how he's guiding other bloggers also. I mean, that's, again, it sort of comes back to the question. Some people have to reflect and ask themselves, are they really the right people to be offering services or advice if they're not sure themselves what the answers are? But certainly this person should go back and have a look at that link that was mentioned earlier on in the earlier question.
Mm-hmm.
Was it bulletproof SEO? Link building tactics or something?
Point blank SEO.
Yeah, point blank SEO, yeah, sorry.
All right, Gaurav, I hope you're happy with that reply. Here's another one from Gabriel Keynes. Do any of you know how Google regards interpage links? I don't know. I don't think I have that terminology right, but I mean href equals hashbang label bracket, where hashbang label is an anchor on the same page, so it scrolls instead of going to a different URL. I'm wondering if that might be a step towards making my site more googly. My design concept uses a single page for a moderate amount of content placed in expanding divs. I'd love to find a way to keep that concept but still be able to create a sitemap for Google and provide direct links to some of the deeper content. Trying to think of something outside the box. What if I made a sitemap as though for a traditional multi-URL site, but all the links go to different sections of the one page? Does Google regard index HTML hash this thing and index HTML that thing as two different links? I think that's true. Would they be served up like regular links when searched for? Thanks.
It's a pretty interesting question, all right, that one actually. There's been some testing done on that. I know that Google does use the hashtags for the hashes for in-page links. Sometimes you do a search and you'll see a Wikipedia page, and then underneath there'll be maybe links to subsections on the page. So from that point of view, and I think they may use them for the in-depth stuff as well, they're useful. But the sitemaps question, I don't think that it will do you any good, including them in your sitemaps. I don't think you should, because it'll probably just say that these aren't canonicals or something like that. And as to whether two links count, that's probably changed. But there was some people tested that actually, and they found that you could actually link with different anchor text, I think, based on including the hashes in your anchors. But I don't know whether that's changed. That's probably a couple of years back. But it's certainly a good thing.
It's at least 3-4 years back.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. But I think it's certainly a good thing to include like a table of contents on a long page so people can jump to a section they're interested in. I try to do that with any sort of long content that I help create. So it's certainly, if it's good for users, it's probably going to be good for your Google rankings. But don't expect any big shifts because you do this.
The other thing to add on that one is Google doesn't actually index the hash fragment. So when you link to a page with a hash fragment to jump the user down the page, Google doesn't index that as a separate link. They understand what it is, but any equity, for instance, if you linked to the same URL, like index.html from 5 different pages with different hash fragments to jump the user down the page to 5 different points down the page, to Google, the equity is flowing into the base URL because the hash fragment can't contain equity. So the equity flows to index.html and the user is simply jumped down the page. They, like Richard said though, they of course use the hash fragments for interface stuff like you see on the Wikipedia articles where you can jump to a section directly from the search results if it's a long page. All of that's good stuff, good for users, but I don't think it's going to have any impact on your rankings per se.
I'm going to hazard a guess that they may, at some stage, they may actually start using links with anchors in them, and they may actually start looking at different sections of the pages differently. I've been doing some work on definitions, and my suspicion is, I don't know if they're using links in any way, but my suspicion is they are starting to look at different sections of the page and try to view them as entities or having relationships to entities. So it's not impossible that in the future they may actually start looking at things like links that do have an anchor in them, which would jump the user down to that specific part of the page, that they may start looking at those and seeing if those signals are useful from the point of view of building some of this stuff that they're throwing into their knowledge graph. But I have nothing to back that up. It's just a good feeling.
Okay. While I was reading that out, I had a rush of blood to the head and referred to the hash symbol as hash bang. It's not. I was thinking of something else altogether. The one with the exclamation mark on the end. Yeah. Okay. So, but look, I'd just like to draw your attention to the magnificent answer given by Federico Sasso on our community, and eloquently expanded on by our good friend Edwin Yonk. So if you're watching this at home, I'd head on over to the SEO Questions Community and check this one out. All right, our next one is from Thames Valley Discos on 301 Redirects. Hi all, I'm looking at moving my site to another server and updating my website so that all my old pages that are .htm get 301 redirected to the equivalent page so that pagename.htm goes to /pagename/. I'm fine doing this in htaccess, but my question, when I first launched the new site and delete the old sitemap in Webmaster Tools and update with a new one, will Google not see two identical pages until it crawls my old .htm files to know that they are redirected? Do I need to do anything else apart from redirecting 301 and updating the sitemap? It's true, no answers on the community.
I think it should be fine. Google doesn't want you to have redirects. I know Bing certainly doesn't, but usually they don't want you to have redirects or any kind of areas within your site, your XML sitemaps. So it might be.
But do they or don't they?
Well,
I think actually they've said that it can be useful for them to have the old URLs, so they will continue crawling them to see the redirects.
Yeah.
Although they do also say, please only put in your new URLs, but if you listen to other people, you'll hear, put in your old URLs so that we crawl them.
Yeah, but the in your Webmaster Tools, if you put an old URL in, actually I saw today a warning pop up in one sitemap saying we don't want to see redirected URLs in your sitemap.
It's not something that's going to be harmful. So if you're really worried, you could always just have two XML sitemaps, leave one in. But assuming the site's not too massive, you can always have like an extra one there for a few days just to signify, hey, it's over here, and then delete it.
Yeah, it becomes more problematic as the size grows because you suddenly start creating lots of orphan pages that have no links to them that Google can crawl anymore. So very often they don't see the redirects. But certainly for larger sites, it's always useful to have links to the old URLs somewhere that Google can find and crawl. And normally, I know that I've done it before, that you just leave the old sitemap there and let them keep crawling it for a while. Let them throw up any sort of warnings or errors they want. But find the 301s. But the bigger question is, does this guy really want to move from .htm to splash. I mean, he's not going to get much value out of that. So unless it's part of the CMS, like, there's no real point in him going to do this if he thinks that he's going to get some sort of SEO value out of it. It's not going to change. It's not going to. If anything, it's probably going to cause him harm. It's more likely to cause him harm than it is any good. So if he's doing that purely for SEO, I just wouldn't bother.
Yeah, completely agree. Despite the fact that he may do a clean migration between his URLs, there's a good chance that he could get smacked about by Google when this happens. I migrated a website 5 months ago that gets hundreds of thousands of visits a month, and the migration from one domain to the new domain was completely clean, no errors in sight. Google has absolutely brutalized the site. It's taking less than half the traffic than it was before the change, and everything's been T's crossed, I's dotted, but it's been beaten up. So I've never had that happen in the past. Usually, follow the bouncing ball, test it, make sure that you've got a good migration plan, and usually there's no harm. It's a pretty quick process and everyone gets on with business, but this time it just hasn't worked. So to think that you can sort of go into this, whack in some 301 redirects and casually be unharmed, I suppose, or fairly risk-free with this, I think is maybe not necessarily the case right now. I don't know what else has gone wrong with this particular site that I migrated. Something obviously is wrong with it that Google has negatively responded to the migration, but the migration itself was clean. Something else has gone wrong inside their algorithm that's caused the drop in rankings. So who's to say that the similar thing wouldn't happen to this website? But I agree with Richard. If you don't need to change it, as in because of a CMS change, I wouldn't change it.
You can never be
Tim
sure.
Capper was no.
Sorry, I was just going to say, even with. Go on, Jim.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to.
I'm shutting up. Latency, it's a great thing.
Go ahead, Richard.
No, age before beauty. I insist.
Well, now I'm embarrassed because I was just going to point out that Tim Capper wondered whether the reason that site went wrong was because Googlebot got a look at Alistair's Movember.
Well, as if it wouldn't scare it off, right?
I was just going to say that even when you follow all the guidelines to a T, there's always going to be some risk that things are not going to go the way you expect them. And anyone who thinks that SEO is purely scientific, they just need to actually do it for a couple of years and they'll see that there's always a risk. Making any changes is always a risk. So if you can avoid making them, you do. You keep it simple, and that's the way the best things work.
Yep. There's always risk in science.
All right, Thames Valley Discos, I hope we haven't depressed you too much. This next item is the first of a new segment that we're going to run on our Hangouts from now on. As you know, we have the SEO Tools community. We have had, I mean, a lot of people have said, SEO Tools, does that mean our panel? But no, it doesn't. Sorry, that was a joke. Okay, Alistair, thank you. This is a question right up your alley too. Thank you for your contribution tonight, Alistair. Good luck with Movember. And whereabouts will people find the URL to donate?
I'll post it in the community or something where you can share it at some point maybe. But it's mobro.co/Alistair Lattimore. And it will take you to my Movember page. You can Google my name plus Movember, I'm sure it will, no doubt. Also.
We'll put it in the community and pin it to the top for the rest of the month, maybe.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
See you, buddy. Cheers. Okay, back to it. SEO tools. It will be a segment. We have an SEO tools community, and through the week, if we see new tools pop up or significant advancements on existing tools, we'll be putting them in the into that community, and each week after we've answered our questions, we'll first answer any new posts on SEO tools. We'll discuss those, and then after the SEO tools segment is completed, we will then move on to our SEO weekly news roundup, in which we discuss posts made in our SEO news community. I hope you guys think it's a good idea. It wasn't mine. It was Richard's. But I think it's a great idea. So there we have it. So I went out and found an article for our first item, given that we didn't have any fresh ones there. If Richard, you could have a look at it. Oh, by the way, if you search on Google Plus just for SEO tools and click communities, you'll find our community is #1. It doesn't matter whether you're logged in or not. It's a good result. It's available from an anonymous browser search. But anyway, if you guys could just go across to the SEO tools community and check this article. This was a post that I picked up via SEMrush, and it was an article on how to use Excel and various functions of Excel, like VLOOKUP, to identify keywords in various keyword research. And it was entitled Excel for SEO, Part 1, Tips and Tricks for Keyword Research. Carelessly, I've forgotten the name of the guy that wrote it, but I have started to follow him, and
is that Richard Baxter? No,
really great. No, I'm sorry, I'm old. My mind's a blank. But yeah, go ahead.
I think it's Richard Baxter is the guy who's behind this. Who he is a UK SEO. He's quite well known. I think he's built his company in the US also. But I just missed what you were saying. I had to jump away for a minute. But it's an interesting tool. But it is quite difficult. There's a learning curve to using it, and you really have to have some. I think it's sort of more for developers than it would be for non-technical people, because you do have to know things like regex and a few other things to really make it work well. It's a good tool though. There's some really good stuff in it. It's good for discovering like link opportunities and contact details for people. There's a lot in it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on now to our last. We're now onto our news section. Actually, there's one there that shouldn't be there. This one we've answered before. It was Tim Capper's review for Google My Local. It shouldn't be there. You guys probably don't see it. So let me click to the next one. And this was a good satirical look at net neutrality that isn't by John Oliver. It was on the Oatmeal, so it was satire, of course. But one thing that amazed me about net neutrality is that most of the US, and Micah Fisher-Kirshner, you'll have to interpret for us, but most of the US is not in favour of net neutrality, because Barack Obama is in favour of it.
No,
How can
people
that
just
be?
don't care. Most people don't care about the technical issues. It's not that they're not.
But I mean,
they're not for it.
I mean, yeah, the level playing field. I mean, it's just so important. It's such a thing that must be preserved. Otherwise, the corporations that are in control now will remain in control forever. If we don't have neutrality, so that the little guy can jump in and the little guy with a good idea. I mean, if we didn't have net neutrality back in the days, say 98, 99, 2000, when Google was kicking off, and Alta Vista and so on, and Yahoo were the top kids on the block, we wouldn't have Google because net neutrality gave them an equal chance to compete in the marketplace.
Yeah, the problem generally is, for those that have at least semi knowledge of it but not fully, is usually kind of the view with the more American mindset is, why should the government have such restrictions? If other competitors don't follow net neutrality and others don't, then naturally people are going to move the one to the net neutrality. What's often missed, however, in this area is that, well, they're kind of monopolies, and so there's no other competitors really to go to. So things where you have AT&T, Comcast, and they're laying down the wires, they're actually given space to do so. And so it's not a true kind of free market area. And so that's what's often missed sometimes in the U.S. is when there's a given monopoly, so to speak, that normally there needs to be some regulations because of the fact that there are really no other competitors that can jump in. I mean, look, Google's only now trying to do so with Google Fiber, and that's a very slow rollout for somebody like Google in comparison. So that's often what you'll find is the mindset usually kind of overall in the U.S. is, well, why should it matter? Like, you know, if you're having, if you can have a competitor, then you'll jump to them. But often missed is you don't have a competitor for monopolies, and then everybody else just doesn't care about the topic.
Yeah, fair enough. Anybody have a comment on net neutrality?
I think there's another issue is that the ISPs are trying to get they're trying to get a bigger share of the pie. You see them, they're starting to get into advertising networks and injecting their tracking codes.
They don't want to be quote unquote a dumb pipe.
Yeah, and they're trying to sell products and they're trying to come up with their own versions of Netflix or movies or whatever. They're really trying to get more into the content side of things. And yeah, if they have control of how stuff can be delivered, they can obviously give preference to their own products and services. But then again, they would have an historical reference in that, yeah, some of the largest search engines on the planet certainly do give preference to their own products and services above others, perhaps, maybe.
Geez, which ones are you referring to?
Oh, I don't know. They're probably gone by now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm fairly sure when I click this button, this page will fail because I think we've reached the end of our rope for the evening, and I'll do it. Yes, it failed. Okay. So that's the end of our evening, if you like. Unless you guys have anything else to add. Nothing anybody wants to discuss? Nothing, no news. Nothing has happened recently that we should be talking about.
I don't know. Did anyone see the recent article about this 25th of October update that some people are saying is thin content, but probably really is part of Panda. I don't know whether that was discussed because I wasn't here earlier, obviously.
Yeah, I was just reading the article I think you shared, and I was just like, I thought thin content was Panda in the end.
Yeah.
So I think it was just maybe a terminology problem the person didn't realize or doesn't know.
But still very interesting to see that they're keep on firing out all these updates so quickly, and over time we can just expect more. It's good. I mean, it also shows that some of these tools like the SEM Rush, where you can look at losers and winners on a particular date, can be very useful. Sadly, it's obviously it can be quite costly to access that data, but extremely useful to have historical type data and a big data set. So certainly, if people are interested in that, the SEM Rush tool is very good for finding sites that have been hit or have gained substantially on a particular date. It's certainly I've found a few examples of their data been quite wonky, where I've had access to real data for a site you said has happened, and it's not always accurate, but it can certainly be a good pointer for trends.
Yeah, I can definitely recommend any of the competitive areas like that. Those visibility metrics are nice to have.
And another good tool, actually, a really good tool that was mentioned in that article was Deep Crawl. It's to me it's too expensive. I've always had a hard time. I've tried to get a couple of clients to start using it, but it's expensive. But it's a very, very powerful tool, and it's very good for really large sites for finding stuff that's not going well and not working well. I've seen it. I've seen demos of it, and it is a good tool.
Which tool was that?
It's called Deep Crawl, deepcrawl.co.uk. I think they're on. There's a couple of companies that are sort of in this space. They basically crawl large websites, and they try to highlight issues they find, like dupe content or problems with title tags or problems with canonicals, duplicate content. They're quite expensive. Like they're certainly they're priced for enterprise clients, basically. That's their target market. But really useful. Like if you have a web team and they're trying to audit content, like large volumes of content, or for competitive comparisons, you can go and you can crawl a competitor site compared to the architecture of your own site. A really good tool, but expensive. Like it's thousands of dollars a month. So unfortunately, it's just difficult to justify. People might use it once, but very often they're not going to use it on an ongoing basis. Could be nice to ask them what they like to demo maybe on the Hangout.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
For our next SEO tools segment.
Mm.
They're quite approachable. The guys I spoke to now, whether this would be the right place for them to show off what they have is debatable, because as I say that they target enterprise, but at the same time maybe there could be some value in something like that.
Yep.
But a good article people should read if they're interested in seeing some of the impacts of some of these new algos that Google and the tweaks they make to see what the impact is on various sites.
Well, I think we should discuss this in the green room. And all those in favour? Yep. Okay. Well, look, we still have viewers, and I'd like to thank you for your participation. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'd like you to join us. If you go to the SEO Questions Community on Google+, the first post in that community has a link on it which will take you directly into this Hangout. You won't be on the air. We're just about to finish this broadcast. But yeah, we'd love you to join us and have a chat with us. All right. So thank you very much, and we'll be back next week.